welcome to another supercharged episode of the High Voltage Live Show. I'm your host, Willie Snyder from NEC Question, coming to you live from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, joined by my awesome co-host, Mr. King James Stalkup, over there, Big Sky Country, Texas, giving old hook 'em horns, and, just give them some prayers for them old Longhorns that they get in the playoffs this year. And we have some good news. We will have Monday morning coach coming back this next Monday, so we can cover your college and NFL. I'll do some fantasy football stuff. Get you guys out on that waiver wire for your fantasy teams, and just have a blast. Too bad Daniel isn't out there, but I don't know. Looks like he's coming for some blood tonight.
Oh yeah, there's your Jeopardy. I couldn't help myself. I just had to do it.
Oh, yeah, dude. I couldn't believe that game went to OT, Daniel. That was crazy.
I don't care what anybody says. The Cowboys had the best kicker in the NFL. Brandon Aubrey is awesome. I was seeing on the thing that Jerry Jones, is giving him extension and a big raise, which he should. I mean, he's good. And then the Cowboys just got Clowney. They signed him. And there's rumors going around. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but there's rumors trading for another defensive end. They're talking about some guy from Miami and then another guy, Hendrickson or something from the Bengals or something. And they said with Clowney, if they get one of them other guys that they're going to have one hell of a defensive line. And I was sort of like, well, you might as well. I mean, you got 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years, plus your 2 second rounds. They got a good offense, and there was some that talked about even a possible trade. I don't know if that's true or not, but they were talking about that Miami has made it known he's on the trading block for Tyreek Hill. And some were saying that the Cowboys had the draft capital and under the salary cap, since they didn't sign Parsons, that they could have Tyreek Hill out there with Pickens and CD Lamb. I was like, golly, if that happened, boy, that'd be one hell of an offense.
We did have Russell Wilson come by the show to give us a special.
Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride.
Y'all should have kept him. He played good.
Yeah, well, I mean, did you see that? He had that moon ball at the end where he's just like 500,
Mm-hmm.
He would have had almost 5. He would have had 500 yards of passing if that would have been complete.
They were showing a thing on ESPN I was watching. They had, believe it or not, Dak Prescott is the top quarterback right now. And they said, and they're playing the Bears this Sunday, and 2 weeks in a row, the top 2 players each week were the quarterbacks that played the Bears. And they said now Dallas is going to play them, said 3 weeks in a row you could have top player in the NFL 3 weeks in a row that played against the Bears. Can you believe that? That's just unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah. I do have stock. I got Pickens, and I like him. He's been doing good for me in fantasy. He had a good week last week, and I mean, I kind of got saved by that last, that fourth quarter. Like he didn't do anything in the first half, but in the second half he had that long touchdown, and that kind of saved me for my fantasy last week. Well,
what happened was Dallas they were passing, but they were running mainly, and y'all's running back we got from y'all, I'll tell you what, he's pretty good.
Javonte's good. Like he was always in a committee when he was here, and I don't think he really fits in that system. Him being that lead back, I think he really thrives, and he's really been showing it, especially getting those passes out of the backfield when they have to do the check down. That's really been helping out Dak, and he's been doing a lot of yards after catch, which that's a lot of what they're saying, he's doing real good now. So
I was gonna respond. What happened? We were in New Orleans, and my cousin, he's a fan of New York Giants, and we were watching the game together, and they got that touchdown. He was going freaking nuts, and then they threw that down the middle, and then he kicked that 60-something-yard field goal, and then he come up and he had the last field goal he had to kick. He goes, I'm not even watching. He goes, that guy doesn't miss. He was so pissed off they lost that game.
yeah, I actually have stock in Cam Scadaboo in a couple leagues, and it was nice to see Scadaboo kind of take over and start, getting some work. I really like that, and Wandale Robinson, he had a pretty good game, and so some of these guys that are like on the waiver wire and stuff, kind of pulling through, and man, somebody dropped him. I couldn't believe they dropped him, and I picked him up, and he's like one of the third best wide receivers on my team. Like
Scadaboo's going to be a good player. He runs hard. He's
yeah.
He's a good player. So,
dude,
all
they've been dropping Golden because he hasn't been doing anything. But I'll put Golden on my bench, man. I'm not scared.
Yeah.
I'll keep
All right, let's
he's
get
a
this
first
thing
pick.
started tonight. You want to start
All right.
off with meme of the week? Since
Yeah,
we
let's do
waited
it.
till like an hour and a half before we did it last week.
I know, that was crazy.
All right, let me kick it off.
Yeah.
That was so funny. All right, here we go, folks.
Yeah, some of those memes are so funny. That was stolen from the Electrical Wall of Shame group. But some of those memes are so funny, but they do kind of have wonky wording sometimes. It says an outlet receptacle, but
I like he's got all the gear all over him and everything.
Yeah, he's got like 10 different power tools and stuff.
That is actually funny. I like that one.
Yeah, but it's pretty funny when you get some of these fanboys that they just have to get all these tools, and the sad thing is, and I'll probably get some hate mail for this one, is I bet you not a single one had a charged battery. But
here they come.
I know, right?
I'm getting hate all over on NEC from Dummies from the NEC or ECD boys. They are just especially Jeremy. He's losing his freaking mind right now. But,
yeah, I saw Jesse DeBay show up, and he's like, "Oh, they posted their things so that they wanted them to get rejected." It's like, yeah, because we made them say exactly what you guys say, and we're rejected. So how do you explain that? And it's really funny because he's like, "Oh, this guy Nat King Code is not very intelligent." It's like, "Oh, really? That's weird because I got exactly what I wanted in 2026."
Mm-hmm. Well,
you didn't get nothing.
So it's like they said, "Oh, they're laughing at y'all at the Standards Council," but yet they basically said what we said. There was no laughing. This is what these guys do. They just throw out innuendos and everything towards people. I said they have no proof, and this is what they do. They just go and attack people and say stuff, hoping something sticks. If they throw enough crap at you, that hopefully some of it sticks to you. That's all they do.
Yeah.
They don't care about the electrical industry. They just care about attacking people. And I'll give an example. Jeremy's saying, "Oh, you're doing copyright infringement using the code section." Well, you know where he got that from his idol Ryan that he listens to.
Yeah.
Because Ryan's saying that. And I said, "Oh, you might want to do," and I told him, I had it on their code on or something like that. I said, "Go look at that lawsuit." I said, they were where you could go on, and they were taking all these codes and everything and just allowing people to have access to them. NFPA took them to court over. Well, NFPA ended up agreeing. They didn't say which ones, but they come to agreement that they could go ahead and print or not print, but have access they take these standards, put them online, and allow them to have access to it. Can you believe
Yeah,
that? Some of the standards,
wasn't that a Supreme Court decision?
well, the Supreme Court decision was that it was a public document and you could use text from the document. You just couldn't take all the text and print it and use it and sell it. Okay.
Right.
And Code On or whatever the name of them was, they took and they have another lawsuit. NFPA went after them and they ended up on another settlement. This just like 2 years ago or something like that, and maybe last year, and come to an agreement that they could actually do some of the NFPA standards. They didn't say which ones, but they actually came to an agreement with them because they were fighting them in court over it, saying that it was a public document once it was adopted by all the states. And that's what was happening. And that, once again, is where you have like Ryan and Jeremy, all these guys, they come on and telling people this, and that's not true. And I told Jeremy, I said, you need to go look at the lawsuits and stuff. And I said, you'll find out we're right. I said, matter of fact, we covered it on one of our podcasts and went through and showed the lawsuit and everything. Go look at it. It's perfectly clear what you can and can't do. And I said, furthermore, I said, you know, we took in our code change publication, I said, we were the first to highlight the new text. We did it in color. Right. And I said, well, shortly after that, I said, NFPA started doing it and other publishers. They started following our lead on that. And I said, we were the first to come in, and we put in, when we would do the illustration stuff, we would have an author's comment. And then Mike comes in with one, I think I can't remember what he called it, author's opinion or something. And I said, then they come in and started, IEI come in and had analysis. I said, they all copy what we've done all these years. And Jeremy said that the NFPA standards don't have nothing to do with the NEC, and we were stupid putting that in our illustrations. And I said there, I gave him a whole bunch. He won't even answer. But I said, you look at, he posted, which we're going to get to, no, we're going to do different on that night. We did it last week on the listing and labeling 110.3b, saying that we were wrong. And I said, no, we're not, Jeremy. And I said, matter of fact, if you look at our illustration, I said, look at all the OSHA section 70, everything that's in that illustration. I said, we give notes and stuff of things that also you need to look at. I said, you look at that other publication, I said, all they do is have a picture of a gas pump with a listing and labeling on the inside plate, and then they do like a little write-up. I said, if I was to do a write-up and explain that whole thing, I said, it'd take me 4 pages. Instead, we try to condense it down into an illustration so that people can go look and see for themselves what we're telling them is exactly true.
So just kind of in layman's terms for all you guys out there that don't just study code all the time like me and King James do, basically all these standards, all this stuff is like related. It's all like a massive triangle, and they all connect. All these dots connect. And it's this standard that relates to that standard and this standard to get this standard, and it all comes back to NFPA 70. And sure. So you can't just look at one reference in NFPA 70 and say, oh man, I know everything about how this code works. It's like, no, you have to look at 70E. You have to look at 70B. Sometimes you have to look at NFPA 499. Sometimes you have to look at NFPA 79. You know, if you're in the fire alarm thing, you have to look at NFPA 72. You know, they don't get 760 in the NEC just out of thin air. They have to reference a lot of that stuff back to NFPA 72. So a lot of these standards reference each other, and they all correlate.
Well, I'm going to give everybody a good example. And I brought this up. I'll make one other point. He goes, and when you're looking at the maintenance, you look at 70E. I said, see there, Jeremy, once again, you show your ignorance. I said, NFPA 70E, you look at 70E, and you look at 70B, and 70B, 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 you lo deals with electrical safety in the workplace. I said 70B deals with your electrical equipment. He just got off of that because he realized he didn't know what he's talking about. But when you look, and I gave him this other point, I said, when you take and you look at 110.16 NEC and you get into your service equipment labeling there, where did that come from? It comes from 70E. And then when you look at 110.24 A and B and you deal with available fault current and determining putting that on the label also and everything, where did that come from? It come from 70E. Now, the reason they have a note in there to an informational note to look at 70E, in order to determine what that cal rating is going to be, where do you determine that? You don't do it in the NEC. You got to go to 70E and you'll go look at Annex D and we show you how to do all them calculations, or you'll take and use some calculation software, which some will do, and you could, as long as you meet the parameters that are in that's in table 130.7 C15A and 70E, then you can use the table and use the hazard risk categories. That'll tell you what you need to wear. But if you can't meet them parameters, then you got to perform the calculation. So yes, you do need to take and use these other standards to determine that. But it also tells you that equipment has to be maintained properly. Well, in order for it to be maintained properly, it's either done by what? NFPA 70B or the manufacturer's instructions. So all of this ties together. And when you hear people like Jeremy and them out there telling you, oh, it doesn't have anything to do with it, it just further emphasizes they don't know what they're talking about. Now, I'll give another good example. I asked Jeremy, and he won't answer. I said, if I have to take and determine the hazardous classified location boundary, I said, if it's not a boundary that's already listed for specific occupancies that are listed in Chapter 5, I said, how do you do that based on the NEC? Well, you can't do that. You got to go to NFPA 497, and that's why we have a table over table 4.4.2, and that gets in, and it has all the upper and lower flammable limits, your MIC ratios, your MSEGs, all that stuff's in there. And then you've got to take, and we also have other parts in there that tells you got to determine what the pressure is in the pipe, because that also can determine what the distance is going to be. There's a lot of things you have to do in order to determine how to calculate what that boundary is going to be. And Jeremy has no clue about any of that, so he won't answer. So it's just a good example of everybody understanding these other NFPA standards. They have a lot of merit as it relates to National Electrical Code, and OSHA enforces those standards, and those standards are used as a remedial standard per Annex A of OSHA. Okay? So just get everybody, and the only reason I know all this is because we've done it for these companies. As special experts, and when you take somebody like Dad, for instance, he's been doing this for 30, 40 years with these companies and tying in the standards and stuff and what they need to do. That's why he was hired to go out and help them design this equipment and setting up these UL 508 and 508 shops, because you couldn't purchase the equipment. So you had to custom make the equipment. And being if it's industrial machinery, you have to take and look at NFPA 79 and use it in conjunction with Article 675. Jeremy doesn't know any of that. And that's why I tell people, but yet he'll say the stalkers are a bunch of dummies and we don't know anything. So anyway, just on my little tangent there.
So I have to be Willie Mays and say, but wait, there's more. There's more that these guys are wrong about.
And this is based on Myth of the Week, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you want to go ahead and start Myth of the Week, and then we'll do the video with it? The audio?
Yeah, the audio. Yeah.
Okay. Let me go ahead and kick it off, and then we'll get into it. And then we'll tie it all in.
All right.
week.
And let me tell you, them ECD boys, they're taking another big jump this week. So here we have a 45 kVA dry type transformer. It says requires working space clearance per 11026A. That is absolutely false. There is no reason that you need to have working clearance on this because not likely to be worked on while energized. I could see in some facilities if they have like a periodic maintenance for something or some kind of spec or anything, but this is the NEC discussion. This is not the what does DuPont do or what does Phillips 66 do. So a lot of people try to twist that and say, oh, well, the job spec will say that does. Well, that's fine. It doesn't say it in the NEC. So here we go again with another clip of the week.
So we're going to talk about 110.26 in this video, and I got to be honest, pretty much anytime we talk about 110.26, change to that section, it's usually going to be a big deal. 110.26 applies to all electrical equipment. Every single thing you install has to comply with 110.26 because of the definition of the word equipment. We'll talk about that. So this particular edition, the 2026, the changes on paper don't seem to be quite that big, but as we dig into it, you'll see that one of the changes in particular has the potential of being a really, really big deal. So let's take a peek. Article 110, General Requirements, 110.26 spaces about electrical equipment. The access/egress obstruction requirements were clarified, and yes, I would say that it is a clarification, no doubt about it. You could argue that it's an expansion. You could maybe argue that it already said this. I don't think it did. But that rule right there, the clarification, is a big, big deal. Also, exposed versus enclosed live parts were better addressed. I love that change. I wish I would have done that 100 years ago. And then DC voltages were added as well. All right, so let's take a peek at what we have here. 110.26, spaces about electrical equipment. What I've noticed is that when you have a code section that has multiple subsections, A, B, C, D, E, a lot of people, they want to skim through A, B, C, or D and figure out which one applies to them, and they only read that. You need to make sure you're reading the language before the A, B, C, D, what I kind of call the charging language to that section, right? So 110.26, before you get to A, has this general requirement, and it applies to all equipment. Working space and access to and...
Okay, when you look at 110.26, what it's going to say there, it's going to talk about working space, and it'll say access and egress to from the workspace. It'll state from there, shall be provided and maintained about all electrical equipment. I don't disagree with that. But when you're looking at that, the key word to that's when it starts off in 110.26 as working space. Okay?
Right.
Now, this is where I want people to pay attention that watch this podcast. And I'm going to suggest anybody watching this podcast, share it to all these different platforms, everything. Get this out here, because this is another good reason of having somebody like Ryan Jackson come up here and talk about something he's injecting what he wants it to say. Okay?
Right.
Now, if I look at 110.26, it says working space, then you're going to go down, you're going to pick up A. And right there, what is that heading? Working space. Okay? Mm-hmm. So it says you need working space for equipment that is likely to require what? Examination, adjustment, service, or maintenance while it's what? Energized.
Yep.
That's it. Okay? So I agree, all electrical equipment has to have working space, but the only time it needs that working space is when you're going to follow the working space requirements that are in 110.26. And when you pick it up, that'll be A1 through A4. Okay, now you can go on.
All right.
Egress from it are required around all electrical equipment to allow for safe operation and maintenance. All right, so let's take a look at these air conditioner disconnects here. I think we're all going to agree
So what they have is we've already covered this in one of our episodes, and we've seen this before where we have these non-fuse disconnects that are like they don't have the 3-foot working clearance or whatever working clearance is required from what they're saying, but they're saying you can't safely operate them. And to me, it's just ridiculous because, they're in order to safely operate them, all you have to do is just go walk up to them. Like you don't have to have like all this, like you don't have to have a refrigerator box clearance in front of them. So you'll hear him kind of go on that. I just want to be clarify that.
Okay.
Without reading anything else in the code, I think we're all going to agree that you cannot get to that working space safely. And once you get to that working space, you cannot maintain or operate that equipment safely. Forget 3 feet and 30 inches and 6.5 feet and all of that stuff. The first thing you have to figure out is, can I even operate this equipment safely? If you can't, you don't have to read anything else in the code. You know it does not comply, right? So you need to be able to get to it safely. You need to be able to leave the equipment safely, and you need to be able to operate and maintain the equipment safely.
Okay,
Whether
stop.
the equipment...
Okay. Because most of those disconnects they put on there, they're just pull outs,
Yeah.
Okay. Or
What are you maintaining?
Yeah, you ain't maintain anything. But let me go a little further. If I take and I put a dresser in front of a plug, that's the same thing. I'm just disconnecting. Are you telling me I need clearance around that receptacle too?
Yeah,
Same.
how do you safely operate that?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. They want to pick and choose where they want to apply this. That is completely incorrect. And after we get through this, I put together on this slide presentation to go through and show per OSHA and 70E, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because there's a reason you have lockout, tag out, and there are other additional safety precautions you take, and I'm going to explain how that's done. And I've worked with I can't even tell you how many companies, and looking at their safety programs. Like I did this one, this is just a few years back, Pantax, that is with the Department of Defense, and they do all this different military grade stuff. They have beryllium out there and all this other stuff that's out in Amarillo, or out in the outskirts of Amarillo. And I actually went in and looked at their safety procedure, and I'm going to tell you exactly how they look at things like this and the safety precautions they take in order to where they don't have the working clearances. And I'm going to explain what they do. This is, once again, you get these guys on these panels that hadn't been out there, hadn't done any of this type of work or worked with these companies, and they come in and they start telling you these things when they have no actual experience out there in the field with what's actually being accomplished. Okay?
100%. They can't understand it. Are ready to move on?
Yeah, go ahead.
is energized or not. See, that's the key. A lot of people say that 110.26 only applies to energized equipment. That is 100% wrong. This section does not say anything about whether the equipment is energized or not. It says, listen, you've got to be able to operate it safely. You've got to be able to maintain it safely, even if it's shut off. Look at this disconnect.
Where does it say that? Where does it say that? I'm looking at 110.26. I want everybody to listen to what I'm saying here. Working space for equipment likely to require what? Examination, adjustment, service, or maintenance while it is energized. Period.
Yeah.
For what he just said, he's saying that it doesn't say that. That is a lie. And I also want to point something else. Hopefully you watch this, Jeremy. You're going to learn something. Because right after you look at 110.26a, what does it have in the informational note? It tells you to go see NFPA 70E, the standard for electrical safety in the workplace, and it's to provide guidance when you're determining the severity of potential exposure and planning safe work practices, including establishing what? An electrically safe work condition, your arc flash labeling, and selecting your PPE. And I'm going to explain how you do that. And I'm going to show once again Ryan's speaking on something because he doesn't know the 70E document and how it was written and how it applies to spaces about electrical equipment. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add to that too, James, is like you look at like this dry type transformer. Are you gonna have to open that cover to test voltage? No, you can test voltage right at the primary panel right there. So you're doing all the 70E, you're dressing correctly and everything and verifying the absence of voltage before you even open that cover. So that's why a lot of these people are confused on this one.
I'll tell you another way you can do it. You can see, say you're coming off that transformer, you're feeding the panel board. All you have to do is check, and you can have your space around panel board and see if the power's been de-energized.
True. On both sides of it, primary and secondary.
Dang right you can. They don't. These guys. But go ahead. I'm gonna explain all this.
Can I maintain that disconnect safely, even if it's de-energized? Well, of course not. You're gonna fall to your death, right? So, no. You have to be able to access everything, egress right away from it, and operate it and maintain it safely.
And so there we go again with that thing you're talking about with that fear mongering, where you have to listen to them and go by what they say, or else you're gonna fall to your death by trying to operate a pull-out disconnect. If you can't climb up on something and operate a pull-out disconnect, then you probably shouldn't be an electrician. There's a lot of commercials, and I had to cut out, so there's a couple little pauses in there.
Now we're talking about equipment that's going to be worked on energized. For equipment likely to require examination, adjustment, servicing, or maintenance while energized, working space must comply with A1 through A4. All right, so it's important to remember, examination includes measuring voltage, right? So if the equipment is likely to have voltage measured there, then 110.26a applies. I think we're all going to agree it applies to panel boards, right? Pretty much without exception. Does it apply to transformers? It could. Depends on the facility. Maybe you're at a facility where, for whatever reason, you need to measure voltage at the transformer. I mean, I was never compelled to do that. If I want to measure voltage, I'm going to measure it at the panel board, right? But there could be facilities where you have to do that. I don't know. Now, the other question to ask is, what's a transformer? Don't say you need working space in front of a transformer.
Once again, you got somebody that has no real life field experience and doesn't understand 70E. And when you get in and you start looking at clearances around transformers, the reason it was discussed in the first place is when they were going to go in and they were going to do an infrared scan on the transformer. That's what it was, right. Where all this comes. Had nothing to do with anybody ever getting in the transformer to measure the voltage. Of course, you'd do it at the panel board. But once again, he doesn't know the 70 document, and he gets in to start talking about things he doesn't know anything about. And go ahead and go on, because I'm going to show some of this stuff.
So one thing I want to add to that, which I think is really funny, and a lot of these guys, they actually taught me this, which is really funny because I guess Ryan just must have forgot this, that he taught me this, is that it's what the code says. It's what the code language is. It's not what facility does. So I don't know where he all of a sudden goes off, oh, it could. No, it doesn't. Either it does require by the code or it's not required by the code, and it's not. So let's move on.
Transformer. What's a transformer? We talking about a 5 MVA, big green box out in the parking lot? Or are we talking about a doorbell transformer? So it's not enough just to point it to say, hey, disconnects need working space. Well, what about the cord and plug connection under your sink for your disposer? Certainly that doesn't require 3 feet in front of it. So you got to look at it on a case-by-case basis, equipment by equipment, site by site. So if the equipment likely to require examination, adjustment, servicing, or maintenance while energized, working space must comply with A1 through 4.
Okay.
There was also some discussion.
I want to touch base on something real quick. I want everybody to listen to what I'm saying, and then you can go look this up and you can see for yourself everything I'm telling you is true. Okay? Now, when you get in and you start looking at this, and we're going to have a table in 70E that's table 135C, okay? And what that gets into, it's going to say, I think the title is something like estimate of the likelihood of occurrence of an arc flash incident, okay?
True.
And when you go over and look at it, on the left-hand side, you're going to see where we have the different tasks that are there. And it's like the second or third one, I can't remember. But it's going to talk about performing infrared thermography. And it says, this is the key word, and other non-contact inspections where you're outside the restricted approach boundary. Okay? True. And of course, it's going to tell you this type of activity, it doesn't include opening the doors and covers and things like that. And they're going to say this is under, then you'll have a second column that talks about operating condition. It's going to say any, and then it's going to say likelihood of occurrence. Okay? And likelihood of occurrence, it's going to say no. Okay? So when you get over there, and they're going, like when you look at operating condition, it'll have a subscript up above it of A, and then the likelihood of occurrence, it'll have a subscript B there, okay? Or superscript, shall I say. Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at A, it's going to talk about that equipment is considered to be in a normal operating condition, okay? Sure. So, in other words, you're satisfying the conditions in 110.2B. You're satisfying those conditions. Now, when you go over and look at B, and I just pulled this up so I can read exactly what it says. It says, as defined in this standard, the two components of risk are the likelihood of occurrence of injury or damage to health and the severity of injury or damage to health that results from a hazard. Okay? Now, they're telling you that's normally the likelihood of occurrence. But if you look at there, when you're doing that type of testing on there, it says that you don't have that. Okay? Right. Because up on the third column there, where we deal with likelihood of occurrence, it says no. You see what I'm saying? So once again, we're proving, and let me explain. How can they put no there if everything's energized? True. You see what I'm saying? And I'm going to explain all this in a little bit that's here, but I want everybody to listen to this next part. Risk assessment is an overall process. Now listen to this. That involves estimating both the likelihood of occurrence and severity to determine if, listen to this, additional protective measures are required. Okay? Now I want everybody to pay real close attention to that, because I'm going to get in and I'm going to explain when you don't have these working clearances, things that you do in order to apply additional protective measures to verify it's de-energized. And you'll suit up and everything, but you'll verify everything's de-energized. And once it is, then you can take and put your infrared thermography on there to test everything. And you keep it outside the restricted approach boundary. Okay? Right. But that's how you do lock and tag out. You get it all done, then you turn it back on, then you can do your testing and then turn it back off. Okay? Right. I just want everybody to understand how these tables are used, and it's pointing out right here that Ryan doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay. True. You can go on now.
And that's considered an electrically safe work condition, even though it's justified energized work.
Sure. And when you look at it, and it's getting in talking about how do you take and get an electrically safe work condition, you've got to look at Article 120 in NFPA 70E that deals with lockout tagout, that is in direct correlation with OSHA 1910-147. Okay, you go.
Question about whether this sentence even needs to be in the code, right? As an AHJ, you can always use special permission and waive a requirement as long as you think equivalent safety has been provided. So there are times in the code where the code specifically says, you can use special permission for this. I don't know that those need to be there, because you can always use special permission. So maybe this sentence should be deleted from the code. Personally, I don't think it should. I think there's spaces in the code where it's worth repeating the fact that special permission is an option. So here I've got a fire alarm control panel. Let's say that that's a 24-volt piece of equipment. Do I really need to have 3 feet in front of it, 30 inches wide and 6.5 feet high? Well, that's going to be up to the AHJ, right? Somebody's going to have...
So I want to kind of talk about this. I'm a licensed fire alarm guy, and there is literally no difference from this fire alarm panel. He's calling it a 24-volt panel. It's not. It has the same 110 of like a VAV. It has the same 110 voltage of any of this other electrical equipment that he says needs working clearance. But now all of a sudden he's saying it's a 24-volt control cabinet. So that's where you're right, James. He hasn't been out in the field. He doesn't know. If you go look inside a fire alarm control panel, I think I've sent you pictures of this before. There's a little thing that says high voltage danger inside there. You know, and so to me, for him to sit there and pick and choose once again, just like what they always do, and say, oh, well, this is only 24 volt, then it's up to the HJ. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
He doesn't.
To make that determination. If they think that 3 foot by 30 inches by 6.5 feet is more than what you should need, well, then they can allow you to provide less, right, if they want to. So they relocated this, which I think was a good thing. It really was in the wrong place. Now we still have an informational note here that says take a look at NFPA 70E, Standard for Electrical Safety in the Workplace. For safe work practices, PPE, arc flash labels, establishing an electrically safe work condition, and other similar topics. I mean, let's be honest here. 110.26a is for working energized. How do you work energized safely? Well, you follow NFPA 70E, right? NFPA 70E tells you what to do when you cannot shut it off, or when you're in the process of shutting it off, right? It tells you how to dress, lockout, tag out, how to verify absence of voltage, all of it. There was also...
That it?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think I had enough at that point.
Well, now that we got that, let's go through and let's talk about this, okay? Because when I look at this myth of the week and requiring working space, okay? Now, naturally, I would say if you can get it with a transformer, you get it. But there's a reason due to the constrictions, or should I say the restrictions, of certain mechanical rooms where they don't have the room. They could have these transformers up above equipment. They can have them below equipment. I've seen them all different ways where they could be to the side of equipment where they don't have the clearance. I've seen them up above suspended ceilings.
Yep,
and you don't have those type of clearances. So
we have one. It's not this one's only a 45, but we have a 75. That the only way that we're gonna get our working space clearance for our panel boards is to suspend it. That's the only way we're gonna get it. And so, like we have to suspend it. That's the only thing we can do. And you only have 30 inches. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing is like, you know, is Ryan going to sit there and say you can't safely operate and maintain that? And with that 30 inches, you know, that's ridiculous.
Sure, like, you can.
To sit there and say that. And the thing is, so now you're going to sit there and say, okay, well, we can safely access and maintain this dry type transformer, but now we're impeding on the workspace of our panel boards. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So this is a solution that makes it work. And the thing, what me and King James have always tried to do is we're trying to kind of give you guys this puzzle piece that you're putting together. And it's like, okay, well, if we go off this puzzle piece that they say, oh, this is just a one thing that applies to everything. And then if we go off that, then all this other stuff is wrong in the code. And then they get mad because they're like, no, it's not. You guys can't read and all this, you know. And it's like, dude, I could put this transformer up in the air with 30-inch clearance all day, every day, twice on Sunday.
Sure you can. And it's no different than a non-fusible disconnect being there. Okay? And I'm going to show this. I want everybody to watch what we're saying there. Now, I'm not going to go over this because we already discussed where he was talking about this in the working space. This is the text. It tells you that if you're doing examination of certain maintenance while energized. Then it tells you to go look at 70E, and it talks about establishing an electrically safe work condition, your labeling, and selecting your PPE. I'm going to explain all of this. Okay? Now, when you come in and you look at NFPA 70E, the first thing I wanted to point out, you go to Chapter 2, you pick up Section 205.6, and it basically goes back and forth. Okay? So they tell you all working space and clearances required by electrical codes and standards shall be maintained. Then they reference you over to Article 110 of the National Electrical Code to look at Parts 2 and 3. Okay? So I just want everybody to know the 70E recognizes spaces about electrical equipment to get it started. Okay?
True.
Now, when you come in and you look at Article 120, basically this is probably the most important part here because they have 8 steps here. It's a process for establishing and verifying an electrically safe work condition. And it tells you what to do. So you'll see a lot of companies, they have diagrams, single line diagrams. They've got documentation of everything there to help you determine all the possible sources of electrical supply to specific equipment. And then they tell you to check your applicable up-to-date drawings, diagrams, and identification tags. Okay?
Right.
Now, they tell you after properly interrupting the load, open the disconnecting devices for each source. Okay? Now,
True.
They tell you wherever possible, you got a disconnecting device. They want you to visually verify that all blades have been fully open or that draw top circuit breakers are withdrawn to the test or fully disconnected position. Goes without saying. And then you release any type of stored energy and you block or relieve any stored non-electrical energy in devices. And that's another topic I'll get into one time when we get into safety month and all that. Now,
So just so everyone knows what this is talking about, so like a lot of times, and I've had to deal with this before, like when you're dealing with like 13.8 and 4160 and stuff, a lot of these transmission lines are coming off the gate, and so just because you throw that switch, you visually verify that the disconnect blades are open, and you think, all right, cool, everything's good. You still have about a mile or half a mile of conductor that's has an induced voltage.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure
you have to go and release that stored energy. And a lot of people think, oh man, I shut it off, I'm good to go. It's like, no, there's still 13,800 volts of stored energy that's in that conductor that you have to still release.
That's right. And once you've done all that, then it tells you to apply what? Your lockout tagout devices. And it says, in accordance with a documented or established procedure. They could have a procedure they've written for a piece of equipment that they maintain quite a bit that you follow, or you take and do a work permit on how you're going to do all this. Okay?
So,
but most time when they do work permits, that's when you're going to work on it energized. And of course, once you do that, you use a portable test instrument that's rated in order to test each phase conductor, and that includes doing it from phase to phase to ground. And they tell you, test the tester, test the circuit, and test the tester again, just to make sure that tester is working properly. Okay?
We have covered the live dead live test before on here. The other thing I want to touch on real quick, James, too, going back to that last slide, is it says it says block or relieve stored mechanical energy.
Sure.
So one of the things that you'll have, and a lot of people don't realize is you'll have a motor contribution load. So like if all of a sudden you shut a circuit off and those motors are still spinning, those motors actually contribute back to the grid. So they'll actually be spinning and turn into generators, and they'll be back feeding current into the system. So that's why you have to lock those motors into the lock position and make sure they are not spinning when you're bringing that system into electrically safe work condition. The other thing is that I've commonly seen on these where they fail on this lockout tagout program is they lock out the genset, but they don't lock it out. They don't make it electrically safe. You basically have to basically disconnect everything from your genset, because like if you just lock out the control, the ATS, then you're not in an electrically safe work condition, because that genset could start while you're working on it.
Pretty good.
Inadvertently. So you have to make sure that battery back or that generator backup is fully locked out and tagged out correctly to where it cannot backfeed that system. So that's just two cases where I see lockout tagout failures.
Sure, I've also seen where they have pneumatic on it, all types of different control energies. And when you do that, they have processes put in place where you got to look at the magnitude of each one. And when you get ready to do lockout and tag out, you determine which one presents the most magnitude, and that's the one that gets locked out first, and the second, third, fourth, however many different sources you have there. And then when you apply the lock and tag back to it, you do it in the opposite direction from least to the most magnitude.
100%.
Okay? Now, when you get into this, number 8 talks about where the possibility of induced voltage or stored electrical energy exists, ground all circuit conductors and circuit parts before touching them, where it could be reasonably anticipated that the conductors or circuit parts being de-energized could contact other exposed energized conductors or circuit parts. Now listen to this. Apply temporary protective grounding equipment in accordance with the following, and it gets in and talks about the placement, capacity, and impedance of it. Okay, and that just goes back to doing your grounding on the system. Okay,
right,
where you're trying to release some stored energies. Now, this is where it starts getting interesting, because we look at lockout tagout, and when you go look at Article 130, now when you deal with Article 130, you basically think of it this way. When I look at Article 110, that's your general requirements for your electrical safety work practices, and Article 120 in the 70E, we call it establish an electrically safe work condition, but it's lockout tagout. And then Article 130 deals with work involving electrical hazards. Okay, now this is where you want to pay attention, because watch what it has you do here, and then I'm going to explain how you do this to make sure when you do this, the first and foremost, you put in an electrically safe work condition if you can. And if you can do that, there's certain things you need to do, and there's certain ways to protect yourself till you verify it's in a de-energized state, because it's always energized until you prove otherwise. Okay? 100%. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is you're never planning on working on it energized. You're going to put it in an electrically safe work condition. And the one reason you do this is because you don't have working clearances, things like that, or it's due to the type of equipment or whatever it is. And therefore, you have to do certain things to verify to protect yourself from a shock. Okay? So when I look at this, the scope says, this article covers requirements for work involving electrical hazards, such as electrical safety work related work practices, assessments, precautions, and procedures when an electrically safe work condition cannot be established. Safety-related work practices shall be used to safeguard employees from injury while they are exposed to electrical hazards from electrical conductors or circuit parts that are or can become energized. Okay? So we're going with this. Yes, you got to do all this stuff. Then it says when energized electrical conductor circuit parts operating at voltage equal to or greater than 50 volts. And when we do safety week, I'll go over and explain about this 50 volts and everything and how it went in the code and explain all of this to everybody. We just don't have enough time to do everything for this tonight.
Yeah.
It says, or greater are not put in electrically safe work condition and work is performed as permitted according to 110.2b. All the following requirements shall apply. Well, naturally, you got to be what? Qualified. You got to do a work permit. There's got to be electrical shock risk assessment and an arc flash risk assessment. Okay?
Right.
Now, when I come over here and I look at an electric shock risk assessment, now this is what you're worrying about, and I'm going to explain why I'm telling you this. Okay? Now, and this will prove to everybody what we're saying is correct. Now, before you work on it, when you look at the code, what does the code actually do? When they're giving you them working clearances and everything, that's to prevent you from receiving what? An electrical shock.
Well,
okay.
So it's protection of person's property. So essentially, they're protecting you from shock and arc blast. Like essentially.
No, not in 110.26A1. They're not.
Okay.
110.26A is to protect you from a shock, and it goes back. Ryan made a statement a while back, and he said, when you're looking at 110.26A1, he said you use that for your arc flash boundary, and we still got that video, don't we? And I told him, I said, you don't know what you're talking about. That is to protect you from a shock. Okay. And even if you go in and look at the OSHA documents, 1910, I think it's in 302, I think it is, or 303. They're going to get in and they're going to talk about the clearances around equipment is to protect you from a shock. Okay.
Okay.
So when I look at 70, if you look at everything that was in 70E when we first started the 70E document, it was protecting you from shock. It was many, many, many years later we started getting into the arc flashes and stuff. Okay. Now, when you look at this, it says you have to do an electric shock risk assessment. And first thing you do, identify your electrical shock hazards, and then to estimate the likelihood of occurrence. Now, let me explain this one more. Likelihood of occurrence. Now, where did I hear that earlier? Well, if you go over and you look at table 130.5C and you go over, pick up that third column, it says likelihood of occurrence. And then you pick it up, and if I'm doing perform infrared thermography, it tells you no. There's no likelihood of occurrence. And then if you go down and it tells you when this table identifies no as an estimate of likelihood of occurrence, it means that an arc flash incident is not likely to occur. Okay? Right. Why is that? Because they're telling you you're going to be doing this type of testing. Therefore, you're not going to be worrying about the clearance because you're not working on it when it's what? Energized. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah. So it says likelihood of occurrence of injury or damage to health and the potential severity of injury or damage to health. Sounds just like what we read over there when we picked up the superscript B down there, and it showed exactly what we were talking about. Then listen to this. To determine if additional protective measures are required. Let's talk about that for a second. Now, if I'm going to go in, and let's say it could be an older piece of equipment or it could be this transformer where you're not going to get clearances, and you need to verify that it's in the de-energized state. You're not working on it while it's energized. You're just doing testing, verifying that it's de-energized. And you don't have these clearances. How are you going to protect yourself? Well, if it's up above and you've got something opposite behind you over here, what do you put up? You put up rubber insulating blankets. Okay? And if you come in and you look at that and you start getting into your tables, and you got to go over, let me go over here. I got to go to 130.7. And we've got these tables that are listed there for your different types of rubber insulating products. And it's like I used to tell people, one table gets in and it's talking about your equipment. So if I looked over as an example, and I pick up table 130.7C14, this is your standards for PPE, and it gets in and it's got all of these different standards here for your gloves, your head protection, rainwear, and you got your rubber protective products, visual inspections, all of this stuff, your sleeves, all of this. But when I get here, one of the things I like to point out, you don't see blankets in this one. Okay?
Right.
Now, I'll ask people, why am I not seeing the blankets in there? Is there another table I might be looking at that has that particular information in it? Well, sure there is. And that is going to be up near the front of 130. Let me find it real quick. I don't remember. I'm in the 2024 and they changed the sections in here, so I have to go look. There's my estimate. I don't want that one. Where are you, booger?
So they have a new standard coming out in 2027, huh?
Yeah, there's some changes that are going to be made in that one also. But when you go and you pick up this other table, it gets in and it talks about your other, and here it is right here. Well, that is test intervals. I don't want that one.
Hey, real quick, I think I got to get this in for Daniel.
Okay.
That's what these guys are doing when they say all this stuff is a code violation, and it's all aligning. Like King James is showing you how it all aligns here.
Here we go. Got it. Okay. I was like, I knew it was somewhere. This is where you go in and you look at 130.7E, and you're going to have your arc protective blankets that are in here. Okay. Now, I want you to listen to what it says. It says standards on other protective equipment. Now, why do they call it other protective equipment? That's the key. And the reason you get into other protective equipment is because other protective equipment is means that you would use in order to protect yourself against a shock or something like that. Okay. So when you pick up these other things, these are other things that you would use. So you'd use blankets, you would use covers, you have ladders over there, you have fiberglass rods, you have your line hoses, your plastic guards, your safety signs and tags, your temporary protective grounds. You see what I'm saying? It's other types of protective equipment to protect you when you're in the workspace. And in this case, I would be verifying to make sure that I have identified the electric shock hazard and I've eliminated it and applied my locks and tags. Once I've done that, guess what? You don't need the working clearance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And 100%. I've worked with so many facilities on their 7E document that they look at this and they apply these additional protective measures, just like I'm pointing out here. Now, look at this. It comes in and it talks about this assessment in 130.4B, and I want everybody to see what it says, and I'm going to tie this into what I was just talking about in A there. Estimate of likelihood and severity, and what does it say? Likelihood of what? Occurrence. And then it says, you shall take into consideration the following. Let's see what it says. The design of the electrical equipment operating condition, and the condition of maintenance. So how does it operate? Right. What is it you're doing? What is the design of the equipment? Can you put yourself in an electrically safe work condition or I won't say electrically safe work condition, in a condition to protect you from a shock? Sure you can. You put that blanket on, and then they say, what are these additional protective measures? Let's see. They shall be selected and implemented according to the hierarchy of risk control identified in 110.3H3, which is general requirement, when the additional protective measures include the use of what? PPE. See there?
Yeah.
And then it says, to the voltage to which the personnel will be exposed, the boundary requirements, and the personal and other protective equipment required by this standard to protect against the electric shock hazard. It can't be more clear than what we're trying to tell you to do. And this, once again, is having Ryan, Jeremy, all them going in saying, and they don't come over here and read the 70E to see exactly what those requirements are. Now, let me say this. This is the last part. You look here, you get into the electric shock protection boundaries. Well, guess what? It depends on what the voltage is. Now, all of a sudden, you got to look at this. If I'm in that transformer and it's a higher voltage transformer, all of a sudden that 3 foot is nothing. I may need 4 foot.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because you would be working on this when you're inside the limited approach boundary. Now, that's going to take me back to one more spot here that I want to point out, because, and this is why I like to point this stuff out so everybody understands exactly what the intent is when you're looking at 70E. So if I go in and I look one more time at 130.5C and I get into the estimate of likelihood, it says when you're performing that infrared thermography and other non-contact inspections, and listen to this, outside what? The restricted approach boundary.
True.
See that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And which you're using the table. Which you're using the table to get that information of where that boundary is.
That's right. And then it says any operating condition, but a likely of occurrence from arc flash bass, it's never going to happen. And the reason it's not, because you're not going to be working on it while it's energized. You're going to be away from it doing the test.
True.
Okay.
100%.
And that's what they're talking about here when you start looking and identifying these different approach distances, and then you're dealing with the working space of clearance. The same principle applies if I'm working on that disconnect behind an AC unit.
100%.
And that's why I like to bring this up for everybody to see as an example. And I gave you all the tables, all the information there that shows you what is the difference when you get in. You're looking at the likelihood of occurrence. You're not inside the restricted approach boundary, and you're providing additional means of protection there in order to verify it's in the de-energized state. And then once you're going to do that thermography testing, you're outside the restricted approach boundary. Why would you need the working clearance?
100%. 100% agree.
Okay.
Dude, I really love that. That was freaking awesome. And I want to announce my fantasy team is on the board. James Cook just ran a 26-yard touchdown. So James Cook is on the board. I got 6 points on fantasy already. So looking good. Looking good over in my dynasty.
Well, I think, a lot of people I know watch the podcast and all that stuff or catch it later, share this episode, like the last probably 4 we've done where we've showed what these supposed experts are out there telling everybody. They don't know what they're talking about.
Daniel loves that.
It really is carnival hour. I mean, but yet they're coming on to us saying, y'all don't know what the hell you're talking about. Y'all are a bunch of blowhards, blah, blah, blah. And I'm showing you and explaining why that's in there and why you do what you do. I mean, for people listening, I've been on the 70E committee pretty much since it started. My dad was. And when it first started, I was actually a one-man show, basically, and the guys that were on the committee would tell you this. We used to update it, and basically it was updated every 3 years, and it was in compliance if you were looking at OSHA 1910, 302 through 308. And it was based to protect people from a shock hazard. And then it evolved into the arc flash, arc blast, and all this other stuff. And And I was there when we went out. I remember going to Canada. Oberon was doing the testing. We went in there and they showed us the arcs and everything and how they were doing the testing and the calculations and all of that. And we actually got with the people Oberon because we were the first to write a 70 publication that covered all this stuff. Then the rest of these guys started putting books out after they had something to follow. And we showed those calculations and how you go about doing it and explaining the difference when you're using the tables based on the parameters. That happened.
Nice.
So,
and the myth is busted. You want to go into the Willie Quiz or you want to do your topic?
what time is it? Golly, I don't know if we're going to get the topic tonight.
Yeah,
We're going to be late.
Dude,
Yeah.
It's so much fun, though. It's so much fun bringing this out because we get the actual explanation. And you know me, dude. I love just asking you any question and just being like, hey, does this guy know what he's talking about? And then you're like, play me the audio. We'll see, you know? And it's cool to just get it live, you know?
All right, let's do the Willie Quiz, and then we'll get to the other stuff. All right. Here we go.
Thanks so much, Adam, making me a sweet intro. Adam's the man. So welcome to the Willie Quiz, the funnest quiz on social media. This week we're doing metal. We're doing metal bands. So question number 1. Which metal band once released an album packaged inside an actual human skull with a $666 price tag? Was it A, Mayhem? Was it B, Cannibal Corpse? Was it C, Nerfranca? I'm doing an Adam impression there. D, the Berserker, or E, Death? Good luck, everyone.
Well, I'll be honest, I have no clue, and the only name I've recognized there that I've heard anything metal they've done is Mayhem, so I'll go with Mayhem. I don't even know any of them others.
All right. So I haven't seen Daniel's answer yet.
I don't know metal that well. I mean, I listen to some of it, but that's the only group I've heard on there. I hadn't even heard of them others. He wants Cannibal Corpse.
B, Cannibal Corpse.
He may be right.
Man.
I have no freaking clue.
Oh man. Do you want to? Is that your final answer? You want to flip a coin? Like, are you
No,
good? On
that's
A?
the only one I know.
All right. You are correct. King James, take question
Really?
number 1 with Mayhem is the
Really?
right answer. I couldn't believe it either. I was thinking what Daniel was thinking when I first saw the question. I was like, oh man, it's got to be Cannibal Corpse. All right. What unusual item did the band Gorgas famously list in their album credits? A pet turtle named Speedy. B, a town garage truck for providing inspiration. C, a broken clock. D, the smell of Montreal sewers. Or E, the neighborhood bum. Good luck, everyone.
Well, another
So-
total guess. I've never heard of Gorguts.
So they actually gave in their album credits like special thanks to blank, so it's like special thanks to blank, and it's either any one of these.
I have no freaking clue. I'll go, I guess, the neighborhood bum. I guess they're giving credit to somebody, I guess. I'll go with
Yeah.
E. I have no clue. I'll go
Yeah,
with E.
that's a good one. And now you're starting to realize that my E answer is not always a garbage answer,
Well, I was
You
going
guys were
between
always
A
going
and
like
E,
A.
and I answered A a while ago. So I figured they're giving credit to somebody as a turtle or a neighborhood bum. I honestly,
dude!
he went with
Daniel
E too.
he's copying King James. Let's see if that is a wise decision. It is not. The answer is C, a broken clock. So we have a good game going with King James only having one correct answer. Daniel is just, not having a good night tonight. All right, so Daniel is going to have to go to the Broncos game against the Cowboys so we can take a selfie when the Broncos are whooping on them boys. All right, so what metal frontman was known for throwing raw sheep parts into the audience during live shows? Was it A, Glenn Barton of, who was that? DSI. B, Danny Faith of Cradle of Filth. C, Gigi Allen. D, Ernest Gore. Or E, Neil Petrosa, Creator. Good luck, everyone.
I have no freaking clue. I guess.
Dude, I actually think I need to do more metal ones because I like it and it's pretty cool because like some of these I knew, but I don't know, some of them I didn't.
Throwing raw sheep parts, man, that's nasty. I'll go with filth. It's filthy. That's the thing I think go with.
Cradle of Filth?
Yeah, I don't even know who that is. I just was like, if he's throwing raw sheep parts in the audience, that's pretty freaking filthy.
Daniel might know this one. Me and Daniel might actually go to one of these shows, and it might be fun. They've been known to. Dude, Daniel's going for another copy. He's going Cradle of Filth. No, so the only reason I know this one is because I've been to the show.
Oh, okay.
The answer is D, Gwar. And dude, they have a crazy show, dude. Their show is so ridiculous. Like the audience actually puts plastic over them, like the whole front. And they have like this plastic thing, and just all the stuff just gets thrown out, and like they have this thing like where they have this like fire hose, and he has like, oh man, it's crazy. Like they do like the craziest show. It's so crazy. Like I mean, you're gonna get hit about 10 rows out with something, But it's pretty cool, Gwar. If you guys want to check out a cool, fun metal show, go check out Gwar. All right, so question number 4. What odd material did Manowar use to press a limited edition vinyl record? Was it A, real steel? Was it B, animal blood mixed with wax? Was it C, a blend of crushed swords and resin? Was it D, concrete? Or was it E, aluminum mixed with animal blood? Good luck, everyone. I'm actually very pleased with Daniel's trust of King James tonight.
Was this used in the vinyl record itself?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm thinking here. I may have to go with. I have a feeling Man of War, so more than likely they use something with blood in it. So I'm between B and E, but I don't think wax would be used. I think you might put aluminum in there. Is what
Daniel's
I'm thinking.
saying real steel.
I'm gonna go with aluminum mixed with animal blood.
Ooh, man.
I honestly have no freaking clue.
The answer is B. I got you guys bold. It was actually they used wax to make the vinyl mold and everything. So they mixed the animal blood in with the wax. So
Okay.
I got you both. Got you both. And I'm so glad you guys are picking my bullshit answers. Because, dude, aluminum, like, I had to think about that because I'm like, I have seen where they made aluminum vinyl. Like, where they put, like, aluminum in with the vinyl and made, like, an aluminum record. So I knew you would have that one from the old school. So I got you. Got you, King James. All right. So, question number 5. In 1990, Pantera's Dimebag Darrell once entered a guitar competition under a fake name. What was the name? Was it A, Rusty Chainsaw? Was it B, Diamond Darrell? Was it C, Whiskey Joe? Was it D, Rusty Savage? Or was it E, Diamond Dave? Good luck, everyone.
Now I'm not 100% sure on this. I actually know Pantera, and if I'm not mistaken, I remember hearing something about this. This is a long time ago, and I think he went under Diamond Darrell, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I think that's right. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they called him Diamond Darrell, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, man. Looks like DJ is going for the copy once again. I cannot believe the trust in King James tonight. That is, I mean, he knows Pantera. Me and Daniel were at the Pantera concert. Let's see if copying King James. You guys are wrong. It was D. He went in the name of Rusty Savage so that nobody knew who he was. And that is so awesome. And like I say, Daniel still has a chance. And he still has a chance to tie and beat King James tonight. We have a tiebreaker.
Okay.
So, Iron Maiden came out with their latest studio album. What number was that album in Iron Maiden's collection? So, of all the albums that Iron Maiden made, what was the number of the album that they made?
So, this has been like, say, your third album, fourth album, fifth album?
Yeah.
Is what you're saying?
Yep.
I think Iron Maiden did like 17 albums, didn't they? Something like that, 15, 17. I'll say 17 albums. I know they did a whole bunch of albums. So I'll go say 16. Because I think they did around 15 or something like that.
Yeah, 17 seems a little high. Let's see what Daniel comes up with for what his guess is. Ooh, Daniel's. Oh, dude.
He went with question mark. I just took a guess. 30?
He went with
I don't think
30.
it's that high.
All right, and King James gets the win tonight. It was 17. You nailed it. And I already probably told you it, but it's rigged, Daniel. It's rigged. I probably already told King James by accident, but like he didn't go over. I thought Daniel was gonna go a little lower, but yeah, I mean, to have 30 studio albums, that you'd be hearing Iron Maiden all over the place. But
I've heard Iron Maiden, Pantera. I've listened to a lot of them, but some of those I've never even heard of them damn groups. I was like, I don't know who the hell he's talking about. But
yeah,
I do know who Iron Maiden is. I've listened to Iron Maiden.
Yeah, it was a little off kilter. I tried to go a little more towards the death side because I knew that I'd put you off your game a little, but you pulled through, man. I'll give you props, man. You know, like hopefully you could, you know, do the same when we go to the Monday Morning Coach. Daniel will make sure that he shows up for the Willie Quiz for the Monday Morning Coach show, and like I say, I'll bring the heat. I'll bring the heat for that show.
Daniel, all I can say is this win's just like what the Cowboys are going to do to the Broncos.
We'll be there. Me and Daniel, we're going to be there, man. We already decided.
We're going to be texting each other back and forth. You know what I'm going to do, don't you?
What's
if
that?
they're winning, I'm going to have the TV behind me, and I'm going to take a screenshot with me with the score for y'all.
All right, well, at least me and Daniel won't be getting bothered by any screenshots from King James. Because they ain't going to be winning.
See,
but
that's what's fun about this podcast. We laugh about it, cut up, everything.
Yeah.
What gets me is how some people get so pissed off about it. I'm like, you can't even have a little fun with it. What the hell's wrong with you?
Well, and the thing is, like, I own stock in the Cowboys. Like, on one of my leagues, I got George Pickens, you know. I got different Cowboys, you know, that are, like, in my lineup, you know. And so I'm not going to be mad. Like, if George Pickens, like, gets a 60-yard touchdown, yeah, I'm going to be mad because against the Broncos, but, like, my fantasy numbers will be good. So, you know, it's one of those things. That's why I like fantasy. It's all about having fun. It doesn't matter if your team's winning or losing. It's not about competition of, you know, the team. It's just about having fun. So,
that's right.
I don't know. You want to move on to the tool?
Yep. Get you right now.
It's time for Tool Review of the Week. Sponsored by the Christians Only Tool Review and Nipex Tradesman.
All right, so I really like this tool. I want to get this. Like, I've been kind of investing a little bit more in this Milwaukee pack-out system, and this is like a complete socket set you could buy with it, everything, and it just like locks right on with your pack-out. The reason I like this is because you could get like just a couple pack-out pieces, and then you could just toss this baby on top, and man, that thing locks in great. And you can close it, lock it, and everything, and you got all your sockets right there. I need to invest in something like this. This is really cool. I recommend it for people because, you know, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. You can just unlatch it from your pack out. You can climb up on the roof, do what you need to do, climb back down, toss that baby right back on your pack out, wheel her out. Really cool, really handy. You know, setup. I really like this. I think this is what I need to move towards more, is this pack out organizational tool. That way I don't just have sockets rolling around in the bottom. Like usually what I do is I get like a Klein zip up bag, or I get these zip up bags and I throw my sockets in there and everything. Next thing you know, it's not organized. It's not easy to find. It's so disorganized. And with this setup, I really like it. It's just so much faster, so much easier. It's so, you could look through the window and see which socket you need and just open it up, grab it, boom, put it back. And I really like it. I think this is what the next generation electricians are going towards, is stuff like this. So I really like this. A new tool just came out.
I like it. It's a good looking tool.
Yeah.
I like
So,
it.
like I said, I don't think it's too expensive. I think it's like $230, which comes fully stocked with all sockets and everything. You got the pack out on there, everything, and then you just stack your parts on top. That's the other thing I like about it. You could stack that on top of your toolbox, and you can just put your parts thing on top of it, so it doesn't even look like there's even tools in there.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Kind of keeps it safe from people trying to mess with you, steal stuff or whatever. So pretty cool, man. Recommend that. And that's a new tool from Milwaukee, just came out. So go check it out and be like me and get yourself organized.
Sure thing.
With the Milwaukee pack out.
All right. Man versus machine.
For years, man tried to create artificial intelligence. On this segment, we find out, is AI smarter than King James?
So I think you'll like this one. I don't know how I'm able to fool AI so good with these every week, but there's people that's been waiting 2 weeks for the answer on this one. And the thing that's funny is that
If I'm not mistaken, I'm not 100% sure on this. It's A or B, but I think it's B. I think it's an off one. I think it's B, 4 foot, and it's like in 410, 152, 53, 54, 55, 56, somewhere in there.
Okay. Let's see what ChatGPT says first, so that we make it fair. We don't want to give unfair advantage.
Let me I got to share the screen here, and I'll get it.
One of the guys at work that I work with said 6 foot. Because I could see that being like, 6 foot, and then, you know what I mean? Like, you go to the manufacturer instructions if it's less than 6 foot.
Yeah. Let's see here. What are we working on? Let's see here. 4 foot.
All right.
Installed in a continuous road. Each row will be no. It's 4 foot even for a continuous load. They said 410 151A. Let me pull up LinkedIn here.
Ooh, 151A. Is that? Do they even have a 151? I don't know.
Give me a second. Okay. Let's go.
So the answer is 4 foot.
4 foot, okay.
4 foot. But if the manufacturer instructions say must be supported within 3 foot, then you go 3 foot. So the manufacturer instructions can supersede the NEC. If the manufacturer instructions say support every 3 foot, you support every 3 foot. It's not that hard.
Okay, yep, it's 154.
Okay.
Just got there, so let me go over to ChatGPT and tell them they are wrong. That would be incorrect. ChatGPT. King James was right once again. Review 410.154 in the National Electrical Code that states 1, 2, 3. Boom, there you go.
Nice. Oh, dude,
Thinking
so next
longer,
level.
clarifying track lighting question. Yep, you're gonna see you were wrong, sucker.
Yeah, like when I first asked it, it said 6 foot.
Oh, yep, so that's it. We're right.
Nice.
Okay.
All right.
So that takes care of that one. So we'll stop sharing here and get us back into our go here.
Do you want to do topic or do you want to just go wall of shame and just bounce out?
Now let's do Washington because it's almost. I mean, time I do that, it'd be 2:15, 2:20. It'll be
All
a
right.
long night,
Well,
and I want to go eat. I'm hungry.
Well, I didn't want to cut in. I just wanted to make sure I give the cheers to Adam for the pickle shot.
Pickle up.
Yep, that's awesome. So the thing that is really cool with all you guys joining us, this is so much fun, and King James is gonna feel ridiculous when the Cowboys go 31 years without beating us here in Mile High.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. All right, Wall of Shame. There's gonna be a lot of smack talking going on for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shame. 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 Shame.
All right, let's see what we got for the Wall of Shame this week.
I brought the sound effects.
What the hell?
So, you remember how we covered this? And this is like a really gray area of the code. How these guys think that they could just seal up this stuff and then it's all right, even though it's a damp or wet location. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they just cut a hole, like right in the side of that weatherproof box and did whatever they needed, or I don't know, maybe they just chase nibbled it. But it doesn't matter how much silicone or caulk you put on there. That's still a wet location.
Hell, that cover looks like it's cocked in too, and it's facing the wrong direction for one.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah, and so I knew you'd like this because this is what we run into on some of these things where they say, what wiring method would you bet that they came into that with?
Are you talking about to the box or?
Yeah, to anything in there. What would you guess?
Well, that's
that they
liquid
used?
tight.
No, but I'm saying like that they came in through the wall.
Oh, I have no clue.
Yeah, I would be guessing that they use NM cable.
Yeah.
And this is where they run into that. They bring NM cable in there, and then they're like, "Oh, we sealed it up really good and everything,"
I think it depends on if this is a commercial or a house. If it's a house, NM probably, but commercially might have came in with EMT.
Yeah, like usually this is to me this looks like multifamily, like the way this is set up with the brick and everything like that. But I don't know for sure. It could be commercial, whatever. But yeah, it just depends. But like the thing that's really cool about like with commercial, the way commercial's set up now, is you come in with EMT. You're using THHN/THWN, so that's a multi-rated wire, multi-rated conductor. So you're good to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's rated for wet location already, so you're good. But typically what we ran into, the minute I saw this, I thought about this. Because a lot of times in these multifamilies, they come in there with NM cable.
Mm-hmm.
Or SER.
Yeah.
And this might not be the same kind of case. I don't understand why they had to scab that extra box on. Like, I don't understand why they needed to do that.
I don't either.
And a lot of times what they do is they're like, oh, well, I can't cross the terminals or something like that. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like I can't take it out of the same enclosure. And it's like, what? You know, like, so you're actually causing a worse code violation by not doing what you think you can't do or whatever. So
Right.
that's literally why we do the myth of the week, is because of this kind of setup, you know, because you never know. But, you know, like I say, I appreciate it. James, thanks so much for putting these together. So much fun. Means a lot. I have a lot of fun doing this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I say, it's really cool. I could bring like these sound bites, have you kind of analyze them. To me, I honestly, when I first started watching like Ryan Jackson's videos, I was like, man, this dude is just a guru, you know, he just knows his stuff. And now I'm just like, dude, he is just almost never right on anything, you know, and it's crazy because I don't understand how you could be so influential in the industry and then just be so wrong all the time, you know. And I think it's just trying to follow this agenda where it's like, yeah, you need to do this or else, you know what I mean? Like, because you have this whole legacy of being wrong. If this one part's wrong, then all the dominoes fall, you know.
Well, sure. And one of the good things, you know, we're showing here, follow the path, you know, and this is why this type of wording's here. This is what it relates here. It goes back and forth. All you got to do is follow. And that's why I say you got to look at more than one section. And once you start pulling everything together, you see how it's actually designed. And they don't do that. They just like to grab one reference and say that applies to everything when they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So
100%. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate Daniel coming hanging out with us. Didn't see David tonight. David must have
he'll
been
catch
at a
up on it and watch it.
He must have been at a CMECP conference. Dude, I heard NECA's going on. The NECA conference is going on up there in Chicago. So, you know, they've been tearing that up. And, you know, like I say, I really appreciate everyone joining us. And for me, as always, I tell my apprentices, make every day an easy day.
Amen. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll see y'all, or we'll see some of y'all Monday for Monday Morning Coach. Rest, we'll see you Thursday. Y'all have a good one, guys.
Deuces.
Deuces.